viewers of High Television, you are welcome to this edition of the program. Press Brief is the weekender edition for today. Is Friday, the 24th of November, 2023. On this program, the newspapers always come first. We'll be back to give you what they are saying. Hello there, we are once more. Welcome back to the program for presentation. I am a technical Larry Kevin Tabot. Starting off with today's publication of Loju of Haman Manor for today talks on the deplorable roads network in the nation's political capital city of Yaoundé. It says Magui Nguso Esos Mbobo Swa stretch of road. The paper talks on the deplorable situation that this roads network in Yaoundé are facing. There you have the caption there for us by Haman Manor for this morning. Taking you to the railway sector, this time around with Gola Njamena, the paper talks of how to ameliorate this corridor's performance when it comes to the railway sector between Cameroon and Chad. The Union Sportive and Dynamo showdown today, as the paper titles that, is quite an electrifying one. Get to read that story on Loju newspaper for this morning. Municipal updates of Victor Cham for this day says to enhance development, government secures CFA France 560 billion from World Bank. And in that said paper, the demise of a senior barrister at law, that is barrister That's Barrister Peter Atabon Kea. He says 1,000 bid farewell to Archbishop's brother, making reference to the late venerated barrister at law. Camride to invest 3.3 billion CFA francs on railway line rehabilitation in the country. Livestock, the paper reports German firm to launch pig farming project in 2024. We'll move away from municipal updates this time around with the people. That is La Voix du Jeune. La Voix du Jeune talks of the democracy in Africa. He says George Weah speaks to Elekam. You can find that story on that said paper. Following the presidential elections, where the incumbent president George Weah lost to the opposition party figure of Joseph Boakai in Liberia. We'll move away from that victory in democracy in Liberia to this one that says homage. Paul Biya celebrated by talented youth in the country. You can find more on page 5 on La Voix du Jeune for today. Info I show newspaper for this paper of Info Matin. Info Matin talks of rural electrification. It says 525 localities and some 2.5 million persons will benefit from this solar electrification panel in the country. The paper talks of testimony. Mesangam Nyamdi comes to pay tribute to the late venerated professor in philosophy, Professor Yube Mono Jana, who passed on. Get to read that story, that homage, on page 2 on that publication for this morning. Quotidian Economy for this morning talks of BVMAC, that's the Central African Stock Exchange markets. The paper talks on borrowing for 2023 in the Cameroon sector that was administered. Get to read that story on that said paper. Public Investment Budget 2023, the paper talks of execution rates of certain region, precisely in the South region, how it's fast moving on well. And for our show talks on the National Assembly, says the paper reports on the misconduct of the National Assembly when it comes to the mining codes. You can find more on that paper for today. Normalization, it says Arnaud speaks to customers on synergy, and Dr. Patrick Philippe Refoué talks on understanding. It talks of understanding the Cameroonians phenomenon when it comes to Kangoka, making reference to the conference or the crusade that was championed by the Burundi Man of God that took place last weekend in Douala. Moving over to the Guardian Post now. The Guardian Post says the Guardian Post celebrates 22 years of resilience today, as the paper is 22 years old for today. The Ministry of Finance boss announces 96 billion CFA France package for teachers' grievances. Get to read that pronouncement from the Minister Louis Paul Motaze to the National Assembly. We take you to this other story on asset paper that is taking service closer to customers. UBA Cameroon inaugurates newly constructed Marwa branch. You want to find that story on the asset paper for today. We'll move over to the nation. The nation says states of federal government territory owes federal government the sum of 1.72 trillion naira budget support cash. You can find that story on that paper from Next Door Nigeria. Appeal court vows of tribunal verdict sacking Soli, and PDP governors confident Lawa Mafakwa will get justice. Wrap up with this one that says Lastima general manager Oragba removed in shake-up. Get to read that on page 25 on the nation. We take you now to the Punch. The Punch says NNPCL ends fuel imports December 2024 project 4.5 trillion naira revenue. And we will take you to Cash Crunch Watson. He says food speeding drop by 3 trillion naira. Federal government is talks on federal government states plans 18 million agriculture job with the sum of 1.5 billion US dollars. Tinubu send bill on local military equipment production. Get to read that story on page 30 on the Punch newspaper for today. Coming back to Cameroon we remain with Nigeria this time around with the Punch Sports Extra paper. The paper reports on Dele Adeye exclusive interview. My biggest regret was that I didn't play in the Premier League. I had concrete offer from Everton and Southampton. They fell through because of transfer disagreement from both clubs. You can get to read that exciting interview according to that paper by this Super Eagles of striker. And we're moving over to this other story. It says Onana to face Everton. Real Madrid budgets the sum of 342 million euros for new Calcico. And we take you to Milan target Adams. Get to read that story for today on that paper of Posh Extra newspaper for today. Moving over to Cameroon, this time around with Emergence. Emergence talks of the phenomenon of the epidemic of femicide in Cameroon. He says violence against women, as today is being celebrated as the World Day to end gender-based violence or violence against women. Cocoa sector, the paper reports on a new reign in the cocoa sector as the prices of cocoa have skyrocketed across the nation for this year. Rural electrification process, the paper talks on how some regions will be now lit by the rural electrification process championed by President Paul Biya. Moving over to Midi Action for today. Midi Action talks of performance rate of the city mayor of Bafoussam, Roger Tafam. He says the city mayor of Bafoussam, Roger Tafam, gets this international recognition of the Association of Mayors in the Francophonie, in the Francophone Association. Get to read that story on Midi Action for today. Innovation for this morning report on the council in Bayo. He says the mayor of UNZP threatened by the authorities in his local jurisprudence. You can find more on that set paper for today. We now move over to the next publication for today, Nouvelle Horizon. Nouvelle Horizon says Cameroon 96 billion CFA francs for the promise to pay teachers. It says is another promise. That's a big question. That paper is quite preoccupied for today. The high rate of femicide in Cameroon, that is a killing of women or battering of women. What is happening in the country? The paper gives us attempted answers on page 6 on that publication for today. Price governance for today says Andre ABIC pays glowing tribute to the fallen professor in philosophy, Professor Munon Jana, who passed on to glory as he visited his Yaoundé-based residence in the nation's political capital city. We're moving over to Yves Bertrand Ward Jana, talks on the vision and future for the city of Konsamba. You get to read that story and that said publication for this morning. We take you to this other paper that is the next publication for today. That is a Cote du Parlement report on the Douala Port Authority General Manager Cyrus Ngor, who was drilled by MPs at the lower house of Parliament. Get to read more on the November session of Parliament on that said paper for today. Forward thinking, it says Northwest MPs bury hatches with House Speaker. You can find more on that publication on a Cote du Parlement for today. We take a bow with Mutation for this day talks of the raw electrification process in the country following the grilling of key ministers in charge of that process. And Clean City, the paper reports on which city is more preferable when it comes to clean city. Kabaige Jibri meets the Northwest MPs who were having grudges against him regarding the sacking of one of theirs who was occupying the position of director at the cabinet of the Speaker of the National Assembly. Get to read more on that encounter with the MPs from the Northwest region. We can't go without moving over to the health paper with Eco Sante. Eco Sante talks of the Yaoundé General Hospital, who partners with Franco Birch partners to come out with this engagement of cardiac operation in that hospital facility. Fight against HIV and AIDS, it says NLS presents the plan for more strategize nationally for the evaluation of the HIV and AIDS process as they are pumping some 692 billion CFA francs for that health fight. Let's wrap up the program with the last paper for today. L'Activité talks of the South region. It says the cocoa culture in the South region as the Minister of Trade, Luke Maragwa Baraga Tangadan, was received by cultivators in the cocoa sector in this cocoa show in that part of the South region. More than a billion CFA francs have been used when it comes to the 14-day cocoa engagement. You get to read that story on page 9 on L'Activité newspaper. This is where we draw the curtains of this week's edition of the program.